How's it going, everybody? Matt Borey here from the Jackpot Gents and the American Casino Guide book with my dad, as always, Steve Borey. How you doing today, Dad?
I am great as always, Matt Borey, always looking on the bright side of life.
Yes, Steve Borey, ever the optimist, especially when we're in the casinos. So today we are talking about 5 games that are very easy to play in the casino. Changing it up a little bit here, Dad. So hop right into things.
Sure. So these are games, if you're a beginner, this is helpful. Even if you're a regular player, it's helpful because we may go over some games here that you haven't played and you may want to give it a try. So, and as we go through these, we're going to talk about whether the game is skill or luck, because some casino games are pure luck. You have no control over the outcome, and some have skill involved where you can, you know, affect the outcome by being a better player. So
And we're
let's
going to talk about whether they're good games or bad games because they're not all good games. They're just all easy games.
sure, okay, but let's start with a good game and bad game, and we're going to just lump this together. Electronic gaming machines, which would include slot machines and video poker. So let's
And
start with
Video
slot.
Kino.
We can throw video keno in there too, but let's you start on this, Matt. Talk a little bit about slot machines.
Okay, so I mean, I'm sure everybody knows what a slot machine is. If you've ever set foot in a casino or looked anywhere on the internet, there's a lot of people who play slots on YouTube now. And slot machines, they started out as a mechanical thing. You pulled the handle, and it would had 3 reels. And if you had anything that fruit or whatever it was lined up on the pay table, you'd win how much it had. And now they've got all these crazy bells and whistles with like thousands of ways to win and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, all the slots, the reels, the bonus rounds, that's all just bells and whistles. It comes down to a slot machine is just a computer that is programmed to pay out less money than it takes in. And that's how the casino gets their house edge. And these are probably not great games. Penny slots are the most popular in all the casinos in America. And those probably have about a 12 to 15% house edge. But again, the main appeal is they're very easy to play. You just stick in your money and you hit the spin button and you're playing slots.
Right. So the thing about slots, really, there's no skill involved. You're just relying on luck all the time. So again, about a 12 to 15% house edge. But now, if you play video poker, which is a game that Matt and I like to play, it has a much lower casino edge. And generally, you could probably find that the games we play usually have around a 1% to 2.5% house edge.
Sometimes a
So
3 or 4% house edge if I'm picking.
well, you play those crazy games, yes. But you should be able to find a game with no more than about a 3% house edge in pretty much any casino in the United States. Well,
Mhm.
I mean, 3 to 4% tops. So it's almost 4 times better a game. The casino advantage is almost 4 times less than it is on slot machines. So with video poker, that's why we like to play video poker. Now, the thing about video poker, you have to be careful because there is a skill involved. One, you need to find the right pay tables because you can look at the pay tables, you can calculate what the house edge is on that game. So, and we have a lot of information on our website, thejackpotgents.com, all about video poker. You see video poker pay tables. The other thing is the strategy. Now, the strategy, there is a strategy. We have strategy charts. You can print them out and bring them with you into the casino. But probably if you're a first-time player, you don't know that much, you probably want to stick to a game like Jacks or Better, where the strategy is somewhat intuitive. And even if you're a bad video poker player, you're still probably getting a game that's 50%. The casino edge would probably be at least twice as high on a slot machine than it would be on video poker, even if you're not a good video poker player. But you can whittle that casino edge down if you learn how to play your hands properly by taking a look at those pay tables, because there's always one mathematically correct way to play your hand in any given situation, and those strategy charts will tell you how to do that.
Yeah, and like my dad said, even if you don't know the strategy perfectly, which there's very complex games we play that we don't even know the strategy perfectly, but even if you're a halfway decent video poker player and you're still making mistakes, you're definitely going to have a lower house edge than you would on slots. The next game in our
Well,
list.
wait a second. You had mentioned Video Kino. Do
Oh,
you want to talk about
yes.
Video
Well,
Kino?
now, so Video Kino is another game that's all luck.
Simple game.
Simple
Push the
game. It's
button.
pretty much like the lotto, but sped way, way, way up.
Right.
It's I think 80 numbers that you can choose from, and then they pull
Right.
20 balls, and then depending on how many numbers you've picked, you generally have to hit. If you only have a small number of, like, I think it's 3 or 4 numbers, you got to hit 2 or 3 to win. And then, but sometimes if you have 8 numbers picked and you hit 8 to 8, you can win thousands of times your bet. But again, just like the lotto, it's very hard to win. So
yeah, but again, with Video Kino, the casino's mathematical advantage is based on the pay table. Mm-hmm. Now we don't play Video Kino, but Video Kino falls somewhere in between. It's not as bad as a slot machine, but it's not as good as video poker. So it's somewhere in between. So if you're looking for a compromise, it's probably about a 7-8% house edge.
Yeah, and a lot of these Video Kino machines that they've got out now have some very fun bonus rounds in them. Holly and I, my fiance and I, were just in Las Vegas, and we were waiting on a drink at the bar, and they didn't have video poker, so we played Video Kino. We ended up winning, I think it was like $750 or $800 on a $2 bet because we got into the bonus round just killing time.
Wow.
So they are kind of fun. I will say I never liked the appeal of Kino until I started playing one with a crazy bonus round, and it was kind of fun once it got going.
All right, let's move on to another game, a simple game for players in the casino, and that's roulette. See, a lot of people at roulette, there's no strategy. Again, this is a game where there's no skill involved.
There is one strategy in roulette, I will say.
Are you going to talk about the five number bet, or?
Yeah, you gotta. There's one. Every bet on the roulette table has the same house edge. If you're on a 00 roulette, it's 5.26%, except for one bet. You put a bet up in the corner that it's called the 3-number or the 5-number bet. It's the only bet you can make on 5 numbers. You're betting on 1, 2, 3, 0, and 00. That is the only bet on the table that has a higher house edge. So really, your strategy in roulette is don't make that bet.
Well, your strategy is actually to play a single 0 roulette if you can find it. The game originated in Europe, and over there it was a single 0 game. The more zeros on the wheel, the worse the game gets because the casino advantage gets higher. So when the game was brought over to the United States, they added another 0. So here, American roulette is called 0 and 00. But now recently, within the past few years, and it seems to be spreading, they have 000 roulette. So that's an even worse game. So yes. if you have the ability, try and find a single 0 wheel. Casino advantage on single 0 is 2.70%. If there's
and then it goes to 5.26% on a 00 wheel, and then on a 000 wheel, I think it's 7.6, right?
I think it's 7.69.
Yeah, 7.6%. So it's a hefty house edge. Those zeros really start to add up. So, yeah, and I guess if you're going to play roulette, our suggestion is always, make the even money bets on the outside of the table, which would be red or black, high or low, odd or even. And those are going to not pay as much. They just pay even money, but the volatility on those bets are going to be much lower. You're going to pretty much, it's almost a coin toss on those bets. If it wasn't for the 0 and 00, it would be a coin toss. So you're pretty much always going to either hit one or the two, with small exceptions when the 0 and 00 come in. So, but you're only going to win even money, but you're going to have much more, a higher number of wins, but the win amounts are going to be much lower. But I do think one of the reasons people like playing roulette is to, just pick that one number and then you get your 35-1 payoff. It's fun when it hits, but it's difficult to do.
And you'll see videos where someone will say, okay, you bet the second column and you bet the red and you bet the odd. And they say, okay, so if you do this, you'll have all these chances to win. And all that is nonsense. There's nothing you can do in those bets to get an advantage over the casino. The only thing you can do is try and play a game with a lower casino advantage, which would be single 0. So single 0 is better than 00, 00 is better than 000. And it doesn't matter what bet you make, every bet you make on that layout is going to have the same casino advantage, except for the one Matt talked about in double zero, the 5 number bet. So keep that in mind. And again, there's no, I mean, there are people who say, well, you can clock the wheel and try and clock the dealer and
That's
try
all.
and get it in a particular section. Keep in mind now, a lot of times these casinos, pretty much all casinos now have these big display boards above the roulette wheel showing you what came in the past. And, you know, if it came in black, you know, 8 times in a row, so, oh, red's due, red's due. No, red is not due because the machine doesn't, the roulette wheel doesn't have a memory. Every spin is independent of what happened in the past. So keep that in mind. Just because it's come in red 8 times in a row doesn't mean it's more likely to come in black in the next spin. The odds remain constant on every spin of the wheel. So the best thing to do, look for a game with the lowest number of zeros.
Yeah, and as my dad was just saying, people will say you can clock the wheel or find a biased wheel. Biased wheels have happened, but a lot of that was back in the day because as my dad is talking about these boards that show you the results that come in, the casinos can keep track of those results in the long term. So the casino will use that to find a biased wheel means like if the wheel had a slight tilt to it or something, or if it wasn't completely level, a certain part of the wheel might be favored for the results. And there have been stories of people decades ago that made a lot of money doing that. But now that they have all this new technology where they can track the numbers that are coming in, a casino is going to know about a biased wheel far sooner than you will. So I would not count on trying to find a biased wheel there or anything like that.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, but again, a simple game to play, easy game to play if you want to try roulette. Baccarat. Now, there's a lot of people out here who probably are experienced casino players and they've never tried Baccarat. And Baccarat is really not a bad game because the casino edge is around 1%, and it's a very simple game to play. You have no input, unlike blackjack, where you have to decide whether or not you want a card or you don't want a card and play how to play your hand. You don't have that problem in Baccarat. Would you like to explain a little more, Matt?
Yeah, so every decision in Baccarat, all you're doing is you're either betting player, you're betting banker, or you're betting tie. Never bet tie. Big house edge on tie. If you're either betting player or banker, they both have a very low house edge. I believe they're both under 1.5%. And all the rules of the game.
Yeah, it's around 1% even. It's even better 1.5.
Yeah, and all the rules of the game, all the decisions are built into the game. The dealer does everything. So you just pick player or you pick banker, and then the dealer deals out the cards, and they follow the rules as to whether or not one hand gets another card or another one gets another card. And it's just that's it. You're more or less betting on a coin flip there. I always tell people if you've never played a table game before and you want to try playing a table game just to say you've done it while you're in a casino, play Baccarat. I'm not a huge fan of the game. I find the game a bit boring, a bit dull, but it's an easy game, no decisions, anything like that. It's sit down, plop down in the chair and have your fun.
Right, the object of the game is to get a total closest to 9. So there'll be a dealer hand and a banker hand. You can bet on either one. Now, if you had and you just add up the values of the cards. So 3 and 2 is 5, 7 and 2 is 9. And if you went over, say you had a 9 and a 10, that would be 19. You just drop the first digit and it becomes 9. 6 and 8 is 14, becomes 4. So you're just looking, whoever's closest to 9 is the winner of the hand. But there are rules that are built in, and the dealer knows the rules, and you don't have to make any decisions. Just make a decision on player or banker. Now, in the long run, the banker hand will win more often than the player hand. So if you were to always bet on banker, and you would have an advantage. So in order to compensate for that advantage, what happens is if you bet the bank hand and you win, the house will charge you a 5% commission. But even counting that 5% commission, the casino advantage, again, is just around 1%. So it's a very low edge casino game. The only thing is Now, usually what will happen is they'll keep track of the amount you owe them before you leave the table. If you bet on banker, so if you bet $10 and you win $10, it's an even money game. You owe the house 50 cents, and they'll keep track. And before you leave the table, you have to settle up for any commissions that you owe. But that's all there is to baccarat. Very simple game. You should try it. To me, I find it extremely boring.
And for you to find the game boring is takes a lot.
Because I like jacks, I like 9-6 jacks are better. But
Yes.
baccarat, to me, it's really boring, and there's no challenge to it. You're just sitting there watching. But if you want to, I mean, James Bond that was his game. He used to play. Actually, he played a different game called Chemin de Fer, but it was basically the same, except it was him against the other player. In Chemin de Fer, the house that the casino acts as the middleman. It's the banker, and it's between the two players. That's why James Bond, it was always his money against the bad guy's money. But in the baccarat that you find, that's Chemin de Fer. In the baccarat you find today in American casinos, the house does both hands, and you can choose whichever side you want. So again, in the long run, banker will win more often. So you want to try it, sit down. But you can do a player also. You won't owe a commission if you win on player.
But you're not going to win as often.
Well, it's a slightly higher house edge if you play that. So that's all there is to baccarat.
Now,
give it a
next
shot.
on
See
the
if you
list.
like it.
Now, the last two games on the list are a bit more my wheelhouse than Dad's. And the first game, which is my favorite game in the casino, is craps. And this is another game that is a game of luck. There is no skill involved. And when you walk up to a craps table, you look at the craps layout, probably the most confusing layout in a casino. There's stuff going on everywhere. There's numbers everywhere. There's pictures of dice everywhere. You got to just look. The way I describe it to new craps players is you got to just look at every single different section of the layout as its own separate game. And the interesting thing about craps, there are very good bets on the craps table, and there are very bad bets on the craps table. We're going to just talk about the one bet here, the easiest one to make. It's the most simple, and that's the pass line. The pass line has a 1.41% house edge, and you are simply betting with the shooter. And there's two phases of craps. Phase one is the come out roll. There's a big puck about this big made of plastic. If you look at the table and that says off, that means it's the come out roll. If it's the come out roll, you put your bet down on the pass line. Whoever is shooting throws the dice, and the pass line is betting with the shooter. So on the initial throw, the come out roll, if they roll a 2, a 3, or a 12, your pass line bet loses immediately. If they roll a 7 or an 11, your pass line bet wins immediately. If they roll any other number, which would be 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10, that becomes the point. And then the puck flips and it goes to the second phase of the game. When they flip the puck over, it then says on. And they will mark whatever of those 6 numbers you just threw as the point. They'll put the puck, it says on right on top of that number, and that marks the point. Then in phase 2 of the game, the point is the shooter needs to roll that number a second time before rolling a 7. So if the puck says off, 7 is good. The puck says on, 7 is bad. And the interesting thing about craps is once the puck turns to on, they will allow you to make the free odds bet, which is the only bet you can make in a casino with 0 house edge at all. They pay you on the true odds of that number rolling. But the thing about that is you have to make the pass line bet in order to make the free odds bet. So even though the pass line bet by itself has a house edge of 1.41%, once the point is established and you put your free odds behind it, the more money the casino allows you to put behind that, since it has no house edge, lowers the overall house edge of those two bets. So, if you've got $20 in the front on a bet that has a 1.41% house edge, and then you have some casinos will let you put 100 times odds. So you could have, if you have $10 on the pass line, you can put $1,000 behind it. That's going to significantly lower the house edge, since your $1,000 has no house edge and your $10 has only a 1.4% house edge. So the more money you can put behind it, the better. However, if the 7 comes out, you're going to lose both of them. So it does get very volatile if you have a lot of money behind it.
Now, what is the usual amount that the casino will let you bet, maximum odds?
The most popular one that I've found nowadays is, it's called 3, 4, 5 times odds, because the way it works is the numbers work in pairs. It's 4 and 10 have the same odds of being rolled, because if you roll a 4, if you were to take those dice, no matter what combination of 4 you have, if you were to take those dice and do a 180 and flip them completely upside down, it's going to be a 10. So it's 4 on one side of the dice on any combination, and it's 10 on the other side of the dice for any combination. Those have a 3 times is the most. So like if you have $10 in the front, the most they'll let you put on the free odds in the back on a 3, 4, 5 times table is $30 on 4 and 10. Then it's 3, because it's 3 on the 2 outside numbers. It's 4 times on the 2 inside numbers, and then it's 5 times on the 2 inside numbers. So it would be 4 and 10 are 3x, 5 and 9 are 4x, and 6 and 8 are 5x.
All right, but when people walk up to the table, though, so they're going to look for the pass line.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not familiar with this, you want to try it, try a $5, $10 table. You go up, you put your $10 in the pass line area. Okay, so then they roll a number, and let's say they roll a 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you said it's 3, 4, and 5, so you could bet up to 3 times your bet on a 4. So then you would be allowed to bet up to $30
behind it.
Right.
So that would be a $40 total bet.
Right, but now it's not marked on the table, but just behind your bet, just outside the line, is where you would put your free odds bet.
Between you where you're standing and where your pass line bet is, there's just a blank spot in the table. You just put your money right there.
And if you watch the action on the table for a while, you can get an idea and see how people do it. And you don't have to make any other bets. But now your bet is in action until your number is rolled or a 7 is rolled. If your number is rolled, you win. If the 7's rolled, you lose. And then there's a new shooter.
Correct.
Or if the number is rolled, the same shooter continues.
Yeah, if you win, if the shooter hits the point and wins, that hitting the point would be rolling that 4 again, that example. If they hit that point, more or less, everyone at the table is going to win. And then he's going to get to, he or she is going to get to keep throwing. And there is another, the opposite, because you can always bet either way in craps. I was just going to say, we're not going to go over it because it's a lot more confusing. The don't pass would be betting against the shooter. Everyone at the table will be mean to you if you're betting the don't. So, and it has a minuscule, smaller house edge. It's 4.40 on the don't pass compared to 4.41 on the pass. Even though it's a better bet, I don't suggest making it because you will not make friends at the craps table. And as I always say, a hot craps table is the most fun you will ever have in a casino.
All right. Now, the last game we're going to take a look at is another game. Looks a little complex, but is actually fairly simple. And it's a good game if you can sit at the table and stay there a while. It's a nice, easygoing game, very relaxing. I find it very relaxing. But Matt, I haven't played it in a few years. But Matt, you still play it quite often, and Matt's going to tell us about Pai Gow Poker.
Yeah, so Pai Gow Poker is a game. There is some skill involved because the way it works is you are dealt 7 cards, and you have to break those 7 cards into 2 different hands. You have to have a 5-card high hand and a 2-card low hand. And the way that works, which seems a little confusing, but the great thing about Pai Gow is it has a relatively low house edge, 2.72% on a traditional Pai Gow poker table. And there's a new fad going around called face up Pai Gow Poker, which this is one of the only times I've ever seen a new game, a new version of a game has come out and it has had a lower house edge. Almost always, if there's a new fancy version of a game that comes out, it has a higher house edge. If you see Face Up Pai Gow, which is pretty much the only game I see in casinos anymore, it has a 1.81% house edge. And the good thing is that's good thing number one. Good thing number two is there's a lot of pushes in Pai Gow. So if one of your two hands, since you have to break it up into two hands, if your high hand beats the dealer and your low hand loses to the dealer, it's a push. You don't lose any money. So it's either both of your hands lose to the dealer and you lose your bet, both of your hands win to the dealer and you win your bet, or if one wins, one loses, it's a push. So there's a lot of pushes in this game. And the third good thing is if you don't know how to play your hand, you can flip your cards over, show them to the dealer, and ask the dealer to set your hand for you, and they will set it the way that the house is supposed to, which isn't always the perfect way to do it, but it is good enough. So even there's even times where I've done that, where I'll show my hand to the dealer and be like, how should I set this? I don't know what to do. However, with this new fad Face Up Pai Gow, it's very interesting. Everybody's dealt their cards. The dealer flips their cards over face up, sets their two hands, so you know exactly what their two hands are and exactly how you need to set your hand to beat it. The only drawback is there is one hand, I forget, it's either a 10 high Pai Gow or a jack high Pai Gow, where and Pai Gow means you have nothing. You have no pair, you have no straight, you have no flush, nothing. If the dealer gets one version of Pai Gow, which is the worst hand they can have, it's an automatic push. You have no way to win. So, which means there's even more pushes in that game, which could be good. However, it is a little frustrating when you finally get a good hand and you can beat the dealer and they have that Pai Gow that is guaranteed to push.
Well, I remember playing this game years ago in Las Vegas. If you're in a casino where they give you free drinks, some states allow it, if you're like Atlantic City or Nevada in a casino, and you're looking for a nice relaxing game, you want to have a beer, not be too stressed out, nice slow moving game, Pai Gow, you should give Pai Gow a shot. It's an enjoyable, relaxing game. Of course, that's assuming
you're winning or
you're winning.
Pushing.
Or at least pushing.
Yeah.
Whenever I played it, I found it pretty good because you'd have all these pushes and you were killing time and you were, having a drink and you really didn't have to do much to, it wasn't a stressful game like you have to figure out how to play your hands or anything. So another simple, easy game for players. If you've never played it, consider that one.
There was one other thing I wanted to say about Pai Gow is generally you want to stay away from the side bets because there are a lot of side bets in Pai Gow. And I believe that's why the Face Up Pai Gow has a lower house edge. They added I think it's two more side bets into that game versus the regular Pai Gow. So you want to stay, there's a lot of side bets you can make in Pai Gow. You don't want to make any of them. And then you should be good.
I was just going to say, in general, any side bet that you find on a table game is usually a bad idea. It's got a much higher edge than the game itself. So keep that in mind.
Yep. And then I guess that does it, right, Dan?
Yes, 5 easy games for casino players. So if you've never tried any of these games, please consider doing it because they're simple games to play.
And that does it. If you want more information on any game in a casino, visit our website, AmericanCasinoGuidebook.com. Or if you want great information on video poker, visit our new website, TheJackpotGents.com.
All right. Well, that does it for today. Thank you, everyone, for being here and watching this. And best wishes for good luck in the casinos.